Let's take a look at what's new on BGG this week. What's up, Brew Crew? Welcome back to Beer City Board Games. I'm Clay. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the newest games that were added to the Board Game Geek website. I've got 21 games, I believe, to talk about today. And so let's go ahead and jump right in. First up, we've got Warhammer Underworlds Wintermaw. Now, I have played Warhammer Underworlds Shadespire long ago. I did play that one more on the app than I did on the tabletop, although I do own the board game, the actual board game itself. I thought it was a really good two-player skirmish game where you are trying to complete objectives and control points of interest on the map in order to score points, and the player with the most points at the end of a certain number of rounds is the winner. I don't know too much about Warhammer. This is coming from somebody who has no background in Warhammer 40k, Kill Team, Warcry, anything of that nature. But what I have played of Shadespire I really liked. I have not played any of the others since then, but I'm at least interested enough to take a look at Wintermaw. Then we've got Potion Crafter. This is looks to be a dice rolling recipe fulfillment style game where you are rolling dice and trying to complete little dice recipes on the cards in order to brew potions. I'm somebody that I wish I liked Potion Explosion more than I did. Unfortunately, that one just didn't land for me, so I'm kind of hoping that Potion Crafter, I like the idea of brewing potions as a theme, and so I'm kind of hoping that Potion Crafter will be a little bit more my speed, especially since this one looks like it's a much quicker game, 20 to 40 minutes playtime. That sounds like a good kind of quick filler style game, which I think is about exactly what I would want from a game like this. And then we've got Fabulous Vegas. Now, this is a worker placement game all about building up a casino, hiring staff, and trying to lure visitors into your casino and have them play your games to earn money, to build up and build and build. And I really like the idea of Vegas as a theme. Unfortunately, I have not played too many Vegas-themed games that I've really enjoyed. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think I've played too many Vegas-themed games at all. I have played Lords of Vegas, which I thought was a very good game, but not one that I would play very often. Good game, again, just not, I guess, my style of game typically. The one Vegas-themed game that I do like a lot is Las Vegas, although there's very little theme there at all, really. It's very much just a dice rolling game. So I'm hoping that Fabulous Vegas will be a little bit meatier, a little bit more going on with a worker placement mechanism and that great Las Vegas theme that I think sounds really cool. Up next, we've got Victory Lane. This is a game from Richard Launius, a longtime game designer, and he's actually responsible for designing some of the very first games that I really... Arkham Horror 2nd Edition was one of the games that really got me into the hobby. And so, very excited to see a new game coming out from him, and he is teaming up with Mr. B Games as the publisher on this one. Now, this is a NASCAR-themed game, which I'm not very much into NASCAR or car racing in general, but I do like racing games. They tend to be very exciting, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing what this one brings to the table. And up next, we've got one that actually has some pictures at least. This is ElvenTrolls, which is one of many trick-taking card games that were added this week. This one is coming from Black Mamba Games. It has some really charming looking, I believe it's Swedish folk art on the cover. I love the look of this. This looks so whimsical, and I'm very intrigued just based off of that cover. But I'm also very interested in trick-taking games. I am not over the trick-taking as a mechanism yet. I know we've been getting a lot of them lately. I say keep them coming because I like trick-taking. This one looks like there's you've got elves and trolls, and there's some sort of interaction with the way that those two play out. Really curious to see, again, how they put a unique twist on trick-taking. So ElvenTrolls definitely has my interest. Then we've got Mission Amazonia. So this is a, I believe, cooperative deck building game, all about being a team of conservationists trying to save the rainforests in Brazil. Which I think is a fantastic theme. Very interested to see how that plays out, what types of actions these cards that you're going to be adding to your deck, what kind of actions these are going to allow you to take. It says it uses realistic maps, using equipment wisely, so it sounds like there will be some new gear that you can add in. Sounds great. Like I said, love the theme. I like deck building as a mechanism within a larger game, generally speaking, and so really curious to see Mission Amazonia. Then there's Thrift Boutique. This one sounds like a fairly short, fairly light economic game with dice rolling. Most economic style games that I play tend to be much larger, much heavier, take a lot longer. Whereas this one sounds like it's much more condensed, and I'm really curious to see how they do that. Plus it has the lowest to highest scoring mechanism, which is something that I really enjoy. This would be something that folks might be familiar with from games like Tigris and Euphrates or Beer and Bread, where you are going to score in multiple categories, but your score for the game will be equal to the lowest score that you've achieved. So if, for example, in Beer and Bread, you're scoring your beer and your bread, whichever one of those is the lowest, that's your score for the end of the game. I think it's a great mechanism, and it really kind of forces you to diversify. So I'm really curious to see how they make that work in a quick dice rolling economic game. Then we've got Potala Palace. Potala. Correct me if I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Architecture and mystery. Rebuild the Potala Palace, a treasure of Tibetan culture. Now, I haven't personally played too many games set in Tibet, and so right off the bat, I'm curious. I like seeing cultures that I may not be super familiar with represented in games and giving me an opportunity to kind of learn about them a little bit. This one says it is a deck, bag, and pool building, tile placement, and worker placement with dice. So that's what's got me right now, is the fact that it's dice worker placement from the sounds of it. And I love dice working placement as a mechanism. That idea of not only the tension that you get from will that spot be there, but will I have the die face that I need to send that worker there in the first place. Just really ratchets up that tension and really makes for a really interesting worker placement game when you throw in dice worker placement on top of that. Up next, we've got Blank Slate Challenge. This sounds like a fun little party game where you are working as either a team or in pairs, and you're trying to basically fill in the blank at the end of a sentence. You're trying to match up with your team or your partners. Sounds fairly clever. Could be one that maybe I'd have to see how it plays. It sounds like there's a potential that it could be very easy to complete the sentences using the same words, but I guess that all depends on what types of sentences they've included. So that'll be kind of interesting to see, but if done well, sounds like a lot of fun. Then we've got Hedge Mage, which is a tongue twister of a title. This one there's very little information to begin with, but it says grid movement, pick up and deliver, simultaneous action selection, all of which sound interesting. But one of the big things for this one is it is designed by Connor Wake, who designed Umbra, which is a game that I've heard some very good things about. And so I'm curious to see, it looks like this maybe takes that and iterates on it a bit, incorporating some things like magic powers, maybe? It sounds like you're trying to collect gnomes from a hedge maze, which sounds interesting. So again, Connor Wake, and plus this is with publisher Floodgate Games, who is a publisher that I've come to trust. They've put out some amazing games like Sagrada and just a ton of games at this point that I feel like I can kind of trust when they're putting something out. It's at least something worth looking into. So Hedge Mage, if you can say the title correctly, sounds interesting. Up next, we've got Flip 7. This is a push your luck card game that's being released from the Op. It sounds very kind of blackjack-like, where you are trying to hit an exact number. I don't know too much of it besides that. It sounds like it's got something more to do with the construction of the deck that you're using. So it sounds like you're able to kind of bank points for future rounds. I'm always on the lookout for these small, quick playing card games with a small footprint and a fast playing time. I love having these around to throw in my convention bags and things. So definitely interested in taking a look at Flip 7. Then we've got Livemix, which is another trick-taking game. This time you are winning tricks that contain both fans and idols. And those idol cards will determine what your scoring conditions are for the fans that you've collected. So I kind of like that idea. That sounds kind of neat that you are, the cards that you are winning, some of them are going to be what you're going to be scoring, and some of them are going to be how you will be scoring them. And to do that all in a trick-taking format sounds really cool. Up next, we've got Sea or Shore, which is another trick-taking game that was added this week. Got a nice short 20-minute playtime on this one. This is one of the few that we have some artwork for. The cover looks really beautiful, super vibrant, very kind of cartoony looking fish on the front. Looking at the cards, it looks like they look like they're kind of double-sided cards on some of them, at least, where you have a number on one side and maybe a color on the other. And so I'm curious to see how that plays out as part of the trick-taking. Obviously that will impact the game in some way, and so sounds interesting. Very curious to see how that one plays. Then we've got Fairy Ring. This is again, very little information on this one. Fairy rings are basically almost like a circle of mushrooms that grow in open grassy areas. This one is a roll and move game from the looks of it, where you are trying to create a mushroom village. Now, normally roll and move would be a big red flag for me, but I've been kind of interested in some of the fresh takes on roll and move lately. I really liked Merlin. There've been a lot of kind of newer games that have taken roll and move and made it interesting again. And so I'm curious to see how they do that, or if they're able to at least do that with Fairy Ring. And then we've got UMATAKA, which is so first off, the theme is really intriguing. This is set in prehistoric Japan, which is not a setting that I see very often in gaming. And it says it takes place in a region known for its distinctive flame pottery artifacts, which, again, very cool concept for a game. Looks like it uses worker placement, and I do see some super cool looking little dog meeples, which that right there, I might just buy the game based on that. But I like the idea of the theme. I like the setting. I like the dog meeples. So interested to check that one out. UMATAKA. Now this one I think is maybe the weirdest theme on this on this set of games. This is Soul Strain. Now this game looks like a dice rolling kind of recipe fulfillment game where you are rolling dice, placing those dice with cards, and once you've fulfilled the recipe at the bottom, you can take that card into your possession, which then can help you fulfill bigger and better recipes. It lets you manipulate the dice in some way, at least from what I understand. The quirky bit about this one, though, is that the artwork is fantasy, but also Motown. So, like looking right here, Arethusa? I mean, we all know who that is, right? A Lot definitely has the look of one of those very famous Motown groups. It's bizarre. It looks strange. But it looks like a very fun kind of combo building card and dice game. So, interested to check that one out, despite the very bizarre theme on this one. I do like Jimmy Scales, though. This guy looks pretty sweet. Up next, we've got Nebula Drifters, The Lost Voyage. This is a 1 to 4 player cooperative game where you are marooned survivors trying to survive on an uncharted planet where the company that you were working for, I guess, just left you behind, and now you have to try to survive. Love that idea for a theme. I love the idea of a space survival game. I have not played any of those yet to my recollection, so curious to see what that one brings to the table. Up next, we've got Penumbra, Trials of Arcana. Now this is one that you can tell they really wanted to slap that Harry Potter IP on it, but apparently couldn't get it. But if you read through this description, you are students in a magical school, learning how to brew potions, summon familiars, gather artifacts. You're dealing with dangerous ordeals like an angry basilisk, sorrowful ghosts, enchanted wildwoods, and whoever has the most points at the end wins the school cup. I mean, come on. But the game itself sounds kind of interesting. There are some photos here, and it looks like they've got some dual layered boards, looks like some cards with certain conditions on them. These are not in English, so I can't really tell what it is exactly we're supposed to be doing here, but this board alone has me at least somewhat intrigued. Kind of honestly kind of wish they had gone for a different theme instead of the whole wizarding school thing. I'm a little over that at this point, I guess, but the artwork looks good, the components look good. If the gameplay is at least interesting, then it's one that I'm going to be interested in checking out. Then we've got one of the big news games from last week, Vantage from Stonemaier Games. This is his take at an open world kind of sandboxy style game. Almost kind of gives me a feeling of Seventh Continent, I guess, just based on the number of cards that they're saying is in the game. This is a Jamie Stegmaier design, so he's got a really good track record with me as a designer. Some of the other games that Stonemaier has put out have been a bit of a miss for me, but generally speaking, the games that Jamie has designed have been ones that I've really enjoyed. Now, obviously, I still love Wingspan, and Apiary was fantastic, I thought. So it's not just his designs that I like that are coming out from Stonemaier, but I'm a little bit more reserved with the new designers coming out from Stonemaier. So, but Vantage sounds, again, this is another stranded on an uncharted planet game, but I'm very curious to see Jamie's take on an open world game, like a sandboxy style board game. Then we've got Flickering Stars. This one I have next to no information about, but the two pieces of information that I do have are that it's designed by Josh Capel and Matt Leacock, who are wonderful designers. Matt Leacock designed Pandemic, obviously, which is one of the games that's very responsible for me getting into the hobby. And this is also being published by Friendly Skeleton, who just recently published Trash Talk, which is a fantastic party game. So I'm really curious to see how this one plays. Sounds like maybe some starship combat using flicking as a mechanism. So I'm very interested to see what they do with that. And finally, one of the last big pieces of board game news this week, Unexpected Games announced The Mandalorian Adventures. Now, honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that it took us this long to get a Mandalorian board game, but I trust Corey and Unexpected Games to put out a very richly thematic game. It looks like it uses a spiral-bound book rather than throwing a bunch of map tiles at you, which I really appreciate. This is good. I'm hoping this is going to make it so much easier as far as storage goes. Looks like there's some card play involved, although I don't know what any of this means yet. It looks like it's going to be another very thematic game. I do like the art on the cards. Almost looks, this one in the middle here almost looks kind of hyper realistic. Very curious to see what the gameplay is like on this one, but nonetheless, I'm very excited that we are finally getting a Mandalorian board game. All right, everybody, that's all the new games that I've got for you this week. In the comments below, let me know if any of these piqued your interest, and let me know if I forgot any that maybe you're really excited about. And until next time, let's get another round for the table.